Best use of a Spice Girls song since Spice World? I think so. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. As part of my coverage of the 2025 Sundance Film Festival, today I'm going to be talking about the 2025 body horror comedy, Together, which will be released in theaters on July 30th. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and recommendations. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and even some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Together stars Dave Franco, Alison Brie, and Damon Herriman, and was the directorial debut by Michael Shanks. It tells the story of a drifting couple who, after moving to the country, find themselves drawn to each other in uncontrollable ways. I like movies from all genres, but there's something about horror that's always intrigued me. Ever since I was a kid, I've been drawn to the weird, the creepy, the macabre, and this is something that's continued for me to this day. So anytime I attend a film festival, I always make it a priority to watch as many of the midnight films as I can. All genres are capable of making you feel something, but I would argue that none are able to do so with the same viscerality as horror. We primarily think of horror in a fear-inducing context, but it's a surprisingly versatile genre that can easily be combined with other genres, even ones as seemingly disparate as comedy. But one of my favorite things about horror and its versatility as a genre is how well suited it is to telling thematically forward stories. Horror films are enjoyable entertainment, but so often they also truly mean something. Since its inception, far predating the development of cinema, the horror genre has been used as a medium for delivering messages. Sometimes horror stories are thematically simple, while other times they can be deeply layered, but they can often be viewed as a dark mirror, reflecting truths about society or even ourselves back at us. Whether as simple metaphors, fables, cautionary tales, or social commentary, horror films are often able to work on multiple levels, effectively scaring or entertaining us, but also making us think about ourselves and the world around us. Together is one of those types of films. An entertaining and fun experience, but a film that's also actually about something. The premise itself is fairly simple, but it's effective in both its execution and its relatability. This film follows a couple as they move from the city to the country. Millie and Tim are a long-term couple who've been together for years, but have been drifting apart. The story addresses the idea of complacency in a relationship, and the feeling of staying together out of habit more than anything else after a while. The couple begin to question their actual feelings for one another, but after their move to a new place with no nearby friends, they find themselves growing more and more codependent. In a situation like that, that's, of course, a natural tendency. But that's all magnified when the supernatural elements of the story come into play. It's all taken to disturbing yet fun extremes with the physical manifestation of this codependent relationship. A movie that focused on either the relatable relationship dynamics or the crazy body horror elements could have worked, but it's the combination of the two, of the horror entertainment and the thought-provoking themes, that make it especially rewarding for the viewer. Speaking of rewarding, Together offers up a delightful tonal blend that, fittingly, merges several distinct tonal entities into one. I think this might actually be one of the most accessible body horror films I've seen. Body horror is a subgenre that has its ardent fans, of course, but these films typically aren't as widely enjoyed as other horror films. They can often be divisive, or at least difficult to get into. Gruesome imagery, heady, esoteric themes, and general strangeness can understandably be a challenge for many people, but Together manages to achieve a certain degree of broad-scale accessibility that has so often eluded its genre conspecifics. It's absolutely a body horror, full of gnarly, creepy, and just plain entertaining moments, with plenty of memorable and gruesome practical effects that will leave people squirming in their seats with unsettled delight. But those body horror elements are offset some here, because at its heart, the story is about a relationship. The film's got the relatable accessibility of a relationship drama, aided immensely by the inherent chemistry of real-life married couple Dave Franco and Alison Brie. This chemistry also helps with another aspect of this film's well-balanced tone, the humor. In addition to their romantic chemistry, these two have excellent comedic chemistry, helping to inject a heavy dose of entertainingly dark humor into the story. I attended the world premiere of Together at Sundance this year, and it elicited plenty of disturbed groans and a few screams from the audience, as you'd expect with a midnight film. But it's not always the case that you also miss lines of dialogue in the same movie because of all the laughter. Given the story's fairly simple premise, genre fans will probably find themselves able to correctly predict where at least certain plot threads will go. In fact, just from the name alone, I bet that many of you probably already have a pretty good idea of what to expect here. But chances are good, the film will still manage to surprise you in other ways. Beyond some base-level predictability, this movie does have a few minor issues. There are a handful of story elements that felt like they warranted a bit more exploration or explanation, and at times the film did feel like it was straying from the self-established rules of its own universe. And then there was the third act, which I still don't know how to feel about. The third act escalation was certainly enjoyable from the horror side of things, but I'm not sure if the film really stuck the landing, so to speak. No spoilers, of course, but there was just something that felt a bit thematically incongruous, or off about the ending for me. Luckily, the entertainingly creepy story, fun humor, and relatable thought-provoking themes easily overcome any of the movie's minor issues. I saw all 7 of the Midnight Program films at Sundance this year, and I could say that without question, this was the best of them. And in fact, this was one of my absolute favorites of the festival, period. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number 1 is the story. This not only has a great premise, but also a really solid execution of its story. It works equally well as a dramatic relationship story as it does as a creepy supernatural tale. It's a fun and engaging story that definitely manages to entertain, but there's more to it with its thematic underpinnings and unique representation of codependency. This is a film that works at multiple levels, so even though there's some predictability to a few of the plot points, it's still a very satisfying and thought-provoking film. Pro number 2 has got to be the chemistry. This is a movie that really hinges on its 2 lead characters and the believability of their relationship. We have to buy that Tim and Millie have been together for years, that they're this familiar unit who have an innate understanding and knowledge of each other, even when finding themselves drifting apart. It's of course possible for actors to merely pretend to have that kind of close relationship, but it's something that's very difficult to emulate believably. Which makes the casting of real-life married couple, Dave Franco and Alison Brie, a stroke of genius. These 2 actors have been together for 13 years, so it's very easy and natural for them to play a long-term couple. They already have innate chemistry, both romantic and comedic, and that clearly comes across on screen, really enhancing the believability and immersiveness of the relationship side of the story. The third pro is the tone. Fittingly, given the other elements of the film, this movie manages to combine seemingly disparate tones and genres into a very satisfying mashup of ideas. Broadly speaking, this movie's probably best defined as a horror comedy with extensive body horror elements, but I don't know if that really does the film justice when trying to accurately describe it. It is a body horror, no question about it, with some gruesome practical effects, and it's got a very unsettling, creepy mystery element that appeals to a slightly less visceral side of horror as well. But it's made surprisingly accessible with some counterbalancing tones. It's extremely funny at times, some of the dialogue, the situational humor, the interactions between people, but then it's got the whole relationship drama element just underneath all of that stuff. It's relatable, it's occasionally stressful or heartache-inducing, but maybe most surprisingly, it's sort of sweet and romantic too. Like I said, it's a mashup of a lot of things that don't seem like they'd go together well, but actually do. On the con side, the biggest issue is the ending. This review is spoiler-free, as always, so I'm not going to say anything specific here, but it just didn't quite stick the landing for me. The third act has got some fun and wild escalation that becomes very predictable after a while, but that aspect didn't really bother me too much. It was more the final few minutes that felt almost out of sync with the story and thematic leanings of the rest of the movie. It's memorable, and has stuck with me these past 7 months, but it felt almost underwhelming in the moment, and I'm not sure it really worked for me. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Together, or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them, if you're in the market for any of these movies, or anything else. I'm gonna give Together 4 out of 5 paws, though this is one of those ratings I could see creeping up some on rewatch. It deftly blends gruesome body horror and humor to craft a delightfully twisted tale, utilizing squirm and grimace-inducing practical effects, as well as Dave Franco and Alison Brie's inherent chemistry. This story explores relationship codependency in a way that's sure to get under your skin. I would recommend Together to anybody looking for an entertaining body horror film, even if you aren't usually into body horror. This has got some gnarly practical effects, but with its dark comedy and relatable relationship storyline, it's actually more broadly accessible than your typical body horror. So I really think that both genre fans and newcomers will be able to find enjoyment from this fun, surprisingly relatable genre and body mashup of a film. If you liked Together, I would recommend Else. Another creepy midnight festival film, this movie begins like an offbeat rom-com before suddenly morphing into a bizarre, very experimental sci-fi body horror, as a strange disease begins to cause people to grotesquely merge with inanimate objects. If you'd like something a little more accessible, you should watch The Substance. Part high-concept sci-fi, part disturbing body horror, all blistering social commentary, this is another tone-blending film featuring thematic similarities regarding identity, a pair of fantastic performances, and some pretty gnarly practical effects. And if you want another atypical body horror film, you might want to check out Titan. This bizarre and disturbing film offers a different automotive take on codependency, as well as some of the strangest and most unsettling body horror I've seen in a long time. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Together? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie about a codependent relationship? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insider information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe if you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.